That gave me the skeevies. Yeah. But it's okay. Probably just some senior trying to get your goat. See you in the morning.
In 1970, a woman evades her marriage and drives away from her house. A strange white van follows her from behind, and its driver tries to abduct her when she makes a stop. Even after struggling for her life, the man easily overpowers her and abducts her. Meanwhile, a girl named Annie rides her horse around her family's property. The director should go to prison for those slow-mo shots of her boobs jiggling. After taking a nasty fall, she heads home and has to deal with her annoying mother and perfect sister, Margaret. Her mother tells Margaret to shave her hairy-ass sister, so she does. That evening, Annie's father, Richard, hosts a business partner during dinner, and they talk about their investment plans. At some point, Margaret becomes the center of attention, but the business partner basically making a pass at an underage girl. Annie gets jealous. As a result, she comes up with a fake story of how a snake ran away from her in the fields, just to get the attention in the room. Her mother, Jane, scolds her before bed and tells her to stop over-exaggerating her stories. She also threatens to take her horse away if she don't get her shit together. The following year, a young girl steps out of her apartment and gets abducted by the same guy in the white van. She screams for her life, but the guy knocks her out. The following day, Annie and the rest of her family prepare to go to church. Margaret has had it with her sister smelling like straight-up manure, and the hobbit over here doesn't correct any of his girls' behaviors towards each other because it's a white person's household. That afternoon, after they finish at church, Richard drives off to a gas station to get fuel and groceries. His son, Daniel, volunteers to get the snacks, and Annie joins him. On the way out, the guy in the white van watches Annie from his vehicle being sussy as hell. He follows the family home. Later in the stable, Daniel is behind Rebel the horse, and the horse gets spooked because he don't like it in the rear. Luckily, Annie dives in to help dodge Rebel's back kick. Annie warns him to never do that again because Rebel gets scared if someone is behind him. This isn't light foreshadowing of future events at all. That night, before Annie goes to bed, she prays for God to help her annoying-ass sister, and also to allow her to kiss a boy before she turns 16. A year later, a hoe in the club goes out for a smoke, but realizes that she has no lighter. The fool allows a stranger to light her up, not knowing that it is the guy in the white van. Just like that, she gets abducted and killed on a farm. The following evening, Annie takes her horse into the stable and prepares it for the night. She notices a white van from a distance and walks closer to have a look. However, she gets scared and runs to the house to tell her mom how she feels. Her annoying sister, who is present at the time, thinks that she is making up another story, so she refuses to believe her. Even her mom ignores her and walks away to get some sleep. Y'all about to regret your self-centered asses for this. The following day at school, the popular girl Joanna teaches Annie how to French kiss by eating her elbow's butt crease. Annie's best friend Patty is about to do it, but Annie grabs her ass. Annie freaks out when she sees the same white van from last night. However, she snaps back into reality when the new guy, Mark, gains her attention. Her friend Patty reads the room and walks away to give them some space to talk. Surprisingly, Annie easily gets along with Mark, as they have many shared interests, including their shared taste in Taylor Swift. After school, Miss Skai Jackson joins Annie for a stroll to their respective houses. Patty says Joanna's vag is the loosest in class. Then the same white van approaches them, and Annie freaks out again. She tells Patty that the van has been following her, but the girl picks up a stone and throws it at the van. Just like that, the van drives away, but Annie still fears for her life. Seeing a white van in front of her house sends chills down her spine. A big back man approaches her, and his diabetes spooks her. However, it turns out that the repairman is not the serial killer, and he is there to install a phone line for the favorite child. Little Daniel wants to be a future school shooter, so he asks Annie to help him learn how to use a gun. She decides why not because it might play into the movie later. A year later, a beautiful young lady finishes from a pool and walks to her hotel room. On the way, the guy from the white van chases her with a rope and abducts her. That night, Annie is caught in 720p by her sister, kissing her elbow. Annie calls her zit face, and this makes Margaret insecure for the rest of her life. Annie plays some Cardi B music, looks out her window and expresses shock when she sees the guy in the white van. When she hears a knock on the door, she sprints downstairs and tries to prevent Daniel from opening it. However, the door opens, and it's her father who walks in. A few days later, Richard takes his wife out on a date and leaves the kids behind. In their absence, Margaret goes out to see her boyfriend, leaving Daniel and Annie alone in the house. The white van arrives, and Daniel runs upstairs to get the BB gun. He shoots at the van to scare it away but misses his first shot. However, Annie takes the gun and manages to scare the van away with a precise shot. Their parents arrive that evening and suspect that something is off about them. When asked, Daniel opens his big mouth and yaps about how he shot at the white van. Even Annie was dumb enough to say her side of the story and expose her sister for going out. In the end, Richard does not believe Annie's side of the story because they think Margaret is perfect, but he punishes all of them for disobeying him. Annie gets angry at her parents for not believing that someone is following her. Later, her mom says Annie has been different ever since they got the horse for her. A year later, a little girl steps out with her dog for a night stroll. Unfortunately, the pedo bear grabs a hold of her, then chains her up. The following evening, Annie and the rest of her family watch a TV show together. At some point, Annie goes to her room only to see the man in the white van standing outside. Terrified, she informs her dad, who then goes out of the house with a rifle. However, Richard walks in and mentions that he shot at a possum. The next day, Annie locks the door and notices that one of the locks is bad. She informs her mother during dinner so that she can tell her dad. A few days later, Margaret drives them off to see a drive-in movie with Annie's friend Patty. Immediately after getting there, the dumb girl leaves the car to see her boyfriend. She finna find out what an Uber ride is for the first time. Some scenes in the movie make Annie feel uncomfortable, and it gets worse when Mark and another guy scare her, and she kicks his ass. Mark apologizes for his actions and he joins her to get some snacks. On the way back, Joanna from school gets Mark's attention, and she seems like the hoe type. Joanna apparently has a Halloween party coming up but doesn't directly invite the girls. After they leave, Annie tells Patty that they ain't going to that lame-ass party with the hoe. The following day, Patty gets on a call with her and tries to convince her to attend the party. She argues that lots of guys will attend and there will be lots of kissing. Annie has been like me, a recluse recently because of the white van, but agrees to attend the party when Patty mentions that Mark asked about her. Later that afternoon, she gets permission from her mother to oddly ride their horses to the party. While dressing up for the party, Margaret arrives and for the first time chooses not to behave like a CBNT. She helps Annie with her makeup and dresses her up in her Halloween costume. Meanwhile, the man in the white van drives around her street looking for his next target. Around sunset, Annie and Patty ride their respective horses to attend Joanna's Halloween party. Annie sees that Joanna is all over Mark and becomes sad. She feels uncomfortable as a result and begins to regret coming. As Annie and Patty are about to leave, Mark invites her out, then kisses her. Unfortunately, Patty Pastrami blocks her because she black and got a curfew. On the way, they bump into the pedo van and immediately make a trot for their lives. Annie breaks away from Patty but falls to the ground after making a mistake while riding her horse. She lies flat on the ground when the creepy man arrives so that he will not find her. The man steps out of his car and looks around, wondering where Annie might have run off to. He eventually leaves. Meanwhile, Annie is under the van trying to make sure that she remains undetected. After the man drives away, she gets up and tries walking to her house. In the meantime, Patty gets home and tries calling Margaret, but Margaret too busy yapping with her boyfriend. Annie manages to find her horse in the field and she drags him to the stable. While trying to prepare him for the night, the guy from the white van appears and strangles her. However, she manages to break free from him, but she gets beaten and tied up. Despite being weak, she lures the man into a trap, and on her signal, the horse gives the man a nasty kick. As a result, the man passes out, giving Annie enough time to free herself from the ropes. Yet the man quickly recovers and Annie runs for her life. While on the run, the man uses his van to cover the distance between him and Annie. He reaches her in no time and chokes her until she falls unconscious. She regains consciousness after some time and finds herself in the man's van. Scared, she lands multiple surprise attacks on the madman and jumps out of the van. Meanwhile, her useless sister is still in her room on a call with her boyfriend. Annie reaches the house in no time and yells that Margaret opens the door. Margaret opens it and sees that the man from the white van is after her sister. Immediately, she lets Annie in, and luckily the man is weak AF, and the girls overpower him to push the door and lock it. While they struggle to run upstairs, the man gains access to the house and chases after them. Both girls try their best to block the next room's door. Then Annie comes up with a smart idea that they jump out the window. Margaret is the first to jump, but Annie gets caught when it's her turn. However, she finds a way to break free from the man and join her sister. While running for their lives, they enter the man's vehicle and try to evade the scene. Since Annie is inexperienced in driving, she makes a careless mistake and gets stuck in the woods. The man arrives shortly and tries to kill Margaret, but Annie steps on the throttle and saves her sister. She then accelerates again and hits the man to take him out for good. When the cops arrive, they look around and learn that the guy's body's nowhere to be found. About a month later, everyone continues with their normal lives, and it seems that Mark and Annie are now dating. Meanwhile, the guy in the white van is still on the loose, and the man dead-ass gets another white van. Multiple reports about missing women in the city storm the news, and it appears that their corpses have been discovered. That evening, the ugly man finds a girl in the woods and abducts her. What did y'all think of this one? A bit mid and everyone clowning on Skai Jackson's acting, but the script wasn't that great either.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Turn on notifications. And leave a like, it really helps the channel out. Thank you for watching.